Hello, everyone. This is your host, Sergeant First Class Khan, with the Warrant Officer Recruiting Company. And today we'll be exploring the 131 Alpha Field Artillery Technician Warrant Officer Military Occupation Specialty. Our guest is none other than CW4 Shirron from the Field Artillery Proponent, and he will be talking to us about what it means to be a 131 Alpha Warrant Officer from the Field Artillery Proponent perspective. Chief Shirron, thank you so much for joining us today, and we are excited to hear your input in all the different ways that 131 Alpha Field Artillery Technicians contribute to mission accomplishment. Can you tell us a little bit about your experiences as a warrant officer and how you feel about serving in your warrant officer specialty?
So I've been serving as a 131 Alpha, a field artillery technician, warrant officer, for almost 13 years now, and it really has been one of the best decisions I've made for both me professionally and personally, as well as my family. I've enjoyed being able to become a subject matter expert within one very specialized area of military operations. And being able to do that one singular focused thing for the last 13 years has only enhanced my ability to bring that talent to the organization. It really has been a great thing for me, and I have no regrets about transitioning from a senior NCO to a warrant officer.
Sir, for the potential applicant listening, we've asked questions that most of us have when deciding to pursue a career as a 131 Alpha Field Artillery Technician. And we would like to delve into some of these questions and get your take on some of the most crucial questions we all want to know. Let us begin by asking, what do warrant officers in your specialty do in a normal span of a duty day when they start out as a new warrant officer in the cohort? And how do those responsibilities evolve into more responsibilities later on?
That's a great question. I would say that as a new warrant officer, as a new 131 Alpha arriving to your first unit after graduating warrant officer basic course, you're immediately going to be given a special access to the leadership in that organization. Typically, a W01 out of basic course will find themselves in a field artillery battalion. And at that level, you immediately will have conversations, discussions, and meetings with the battalion S3, the battalion XO, the battalion commander, and the battalion command sergeant major. And it's really, they're leaning on not only the new skills that you've been taught in basic course and the skill set that's going to arm you with to bring and make the unit better, but they're also looking for you because they know as a warrant officer you have an enlisted background and you have additional experience that the junior NCOs in their formation and even the junior officers haven't built up yet. So you come with a very unique and very sought-after set of talent, skills, and attributes that leadership look for. And the biggest thing is, as you grow as a warrant officer, you'll continue to move up in echelon. So you'll find yourself at the brigade, the division, even at the corps level. And that type of relationship with the leadership doesn't change. At the brigade, you'll become the trusted advisor to the brigade commander for all things targeting. Even at division level, you'll work with the G3, the chief of staff, even the division commander, briefing them and making recommendations on military operations, specifically targeting focused. And that's the great thing about being a 131 and being a warrant officer in general, is it allows you to really just get really good at a few things, as opposed to being a jack of all trades as an NCO or as an officer bouncing around from staff position.
Why should someone pursue this type of commission, and what are some of the benefits they take into the civilian world?
Well, That's a great question. And honestly, I will tell you that life after the Army can be scary for anyone, not only warrant officers, NCOs, and officers as well. It's a scary time to try to figure out what you do next after your Army career, whether it be at 20 years or less or whatever the case may be. For us as a 131 Alpha, there are not only are you going to receive critical skills through your PME, your professional military education, but also there's a lot of functional courses through both the Army and the joint community that you'll be able to attend and really build your toolkit. And so at life after the Army, you're going to become a highly sought after commodity if you choose to work in a military capacity or even in a purely civilian, working away from the Defense Department as a project manager or as a manager or an analyst. That critical thinking that you'll develop as a 131 Alpha will benefit you not only in your career in the Army, but your follow-on career should you choose one.
Thank you for that insight, sir. As a young staff sergeant working in, let's say, a S3 or G3 shop, what advice would you give them on what types of jobs they need to start working towards in their enlisted careers that will help them to achieve a commission as a 131 Alpha warrant officer?
If I was to talk to a staff sergeant working in, for example, the S3 shop or the G3 shop, the biggest thing I would tell them is don't get too focused on the position you're being assigned to. Don't get too focused on the job, especially if you feel that you should be doing something else. Take that current assignment as an opportunity to do your best in that, to really just round out your skills. Because at the end of the day, your performance in a position that may not be necessarily in your core competencies, if you perform extremely well, your evaluations will reflect. And that's going to be the most competitive thing for you at a warrant officer selection board is to the board members. They see that, yeah, you might not have been in X position. You might have been a detailed recruiter. Or you might have been a drill sergeant, a detailed drill sergeant or DA select drill sergeant rather. But even though those aren't in your core competencies as in your MOS, you put everything into those positions and you perform very well. Your evaluations show that you're adaptable, you're able to be flexible to assignments and still thrive in different circumstances. That's an extremely valuable asset as a 131 Alpha, as a warrant officer, because you're going to find yourself in a myriad of challenging situations. And that skill set to be able to be flexible and be able to kind of adapt to the environment is going to make you extremely successful.
Great advice, sir. What types of training can a young enlisted NCO benefit from when considering to pursue a career in the Field Artillery 131 Alpha warrant officer specialty?
So if I was to talk to a young NCO, I would tell them that if they're really looking to apply to be a 131 Alpha, they want to go ahead and get battle staff at the earliest opportunity, because that's really give them the tools to understand and how to function as a part of a team on a staff at echelon. In addition to 131 Alpha specific training that'll really set them up for success as a targeting officer, there's the precision fire suite of courses such as target mensuration only, weaponeering, and collateral damage estimation. Those are functional courses that they're going to get in basic course as a 131 Alpha, but it's also offered to NCOs. So if you have that already, it just sets you up for success as you continue your training as a warrant officer. And really just seek out opportunities to diversify the Army experience. You've got the operational courses, Ranger, air assault, airborne, those types of trainings just open up different types of opportunities for you at locations and duty assignments across the Army. Don't feel that you're pigeonholed as an NCO and you're limited on your courses. Open up your aperture, request to take these courses, and just know that if there's a course you didn't get to take as an NCO, if selected for a 131 Alpha, you'll be able to probably attend that course because as a 131 Alpha, so many different courses kind of overlap into our area of expertise. So you're able to attend many different courses that the Army and the Joint Staff offer as a 131 Alpha.
Thank you, sir. What is the most common mistake made by applicants applying to the cohort, and how can they be avoided?
I would say that the most common mistake I see when I review warrant officer applications are spelling or grammatical in nature. So if you take that extra step and really proofread it, have someone else look over your entire packet, specifically looking at your spelling and your grammar on your resume and the resume summary. And then other than that, really the next thing is ensuring that your summary speaks to your potential and the skills that will relate to you as a warrant officer in the 131 Alpha career field. Also, it's good to have the proper titles and nomenclature and things of that nature. For example, we're no longer a warrant officer corps. We're a cohort. We're part of the overall officer corps. So you want to make sure that you mention that when you speak to the warrant officers, you're speaking to the warrant officer cohort and not the warrant officer corps. For 131 Alpha specifically, in 2017, we did an occupational title change. We're no longer Field Artillery Targeting Technicians. We're simply Field Artillery Technicians. So you want to make sure that you capture those things in your summary, and that will go a long way towards showing the board members that you're up to date and you really know what's going on within the warrant officer community and the 131 Alpha community, and you really want to be a part of that.
Thank you, sir. When submitting a packet to the board, what do board members value the most? And could you help us to describe the process that takes place when your packet is reviewed by the board?
On the warrant officer selection board, there's a finite number of members. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but I will tell you that for every board where we're selecting 131 Alphas, we have a representative there. So what they're really looking for in an application is they're looking at all of the contents of the application. The packet is, the USAREC has a great process of identifying and capturing talent, performance, and potential in the overall application, whether it be the SRB, the evaluations, the schooling, and so forth. But really, the key thing for a 131 Alpha applicant to be successful and be competitive, we're really looking for someone who's physically fit. The average selected NCO for 131 Alpha has over a 275 APFT, ACFT around the 500 or higher. Additionally, their evaluations are always strong with a highly qualified, promote above peers or most qualified. And it's enumerated appropriately. Additionally, on the SRB, we're looking for those individuals that have sought out multiple courses, whether it be SHARP or combatives or precision fires or battle staff or any number of different courses. It just shows that that NCO is trying to seek out opportunities to better themselves, and that tells the board member a lot about their drive as an individual, as an NCO in the Army today. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if I had to rank them, I would say your evaluations are number one as far as being the most important thing, and then after that, obviously, it's going to be the data on your SRB. If you have a deployments, that's a discriminator. If you have your ASVAB and your GT and your ASVAB line scores are high, that helps. You got the schooling that's required. You've been competitive. You've shown that the Army has consistently identified you for promotion in a timely manner, and you haven't sat, in the above the zone or anything like that for an extended grade. And physical fitness. Being a warrant officer, being a 131 Alpha, you're going to start out at the battalion level, and the battalions are, they're fighting the fight. They're in the trenches. So you want to make sure you're physically fit to be able to maintain and keep up and really lead from the front as a warrant officer at that level.
Thank you, sir. That was very insightful. Once an applicant is selected, how long do they attend walks, and how long is the training for 131 Alpha Field Artillery Technician Warrant Officer Specialty?
So once an NCO is selected for warrant officer and the selection board meal per message comes out, depending on the available classes, it could be between 6 and 8 months before they'll have a warrant officer candidate school date. And obviously that's backed up against available warrant officer basic course dates. So the idea is not to have a significant gap between graduating candidate school as a W01 and starting your MOS qualification basic course. So on average 6 to 8 months before you will report to warrant officer candidate school. The candidate school is roughly 4 to 5 weeks, and upon that it's a PCS to Fort Sill, Oklahoma for approximately 7 months. You'll be in the warrant officer basic course, and then upon graduation you'll PCS from Fort Sill to your first unit of assignment.
Sir, what advice would you give to a newly selected NCO in your unit on how to prepare for walks and the warrant officer training they're about to conduct?
The advice I'd give to a newly selected NCO is really just get your house in order. Understand that this is going to be a significant change for both you and your family. Make sure that everyone is prepared for that. And also just mentally prepare yourself for the different role that the Army is going to have to ask of you. And because if you are selected for a 131 Alpha, you want to reach out to the 131 Alphas that you've worked with and just ask them. It's like, hey, what can I do to better prepare myself? Obviously, Army Field Manual 3-60, Army Targeting is a great primer. Just becoming familiar with that will kind of lay the foundation for what you can expect to build upon at the Warrant Officer Basic course. But really, it's just mentally preparing yourself for that dynamic shift from being an NCO to being a warrant officer. And that's going to be a struggle. It was a struggle for me, being the doer as opposed to being type of in a managerial leadership role. It's a challenge, and that's something that a newly selected NCO needs to go ahead and start preparing for before they report to Warrant Officer Candidate School.
That's great advice, sir. When you've been trained and pin on as a warrant officer, do you have any input on where you will be stationed, and what is the process for selecting a duty station?
Currently for 131 Alphas, about the halfway point for Warrant Officer Basic course, HRC and the 131 Alpha assignment officer will send down to the Warrant Officer Instruction Branch at Fort Sill a list of all the assignments available for that class. And currently the policy within the Warrant Officer Instruction Branch at Fort Sill is the students will take a look at the list and they'll place their name based off of where they would go on the assignments available. And then if there is a tie, say for example 2 W01s want to go to Fort Campbell, for example, and there's only one assignment available at Fort Campbell, the instructors there and the course manager, they look at overall class ranking performance to determine who will get that one authorization. So you really have some input into your first assignment, but ultimately you have to keep in mind that not every duty location is going to be available when you're graduate the basic course. So you will there are going to be plenty of options, and to better ensure that you have the best chance of getting the option you want, then you really want to ensure that you do well in the basic course.
Thanks, sir. That's really great information to know. When approaching your unit officer in charge or the senior warrant officer for a letter of recommendation, what steps should an NCO take to position themselves in receiving a stellar letter of recommendation?
So if I was to give some advice on an NCO looking to build their application, and at the point of that process, they're really starting to look at letters of recommendation, go in and talk to your commander. at both your level 1 UCMJ and your level 2 UCMJ authorities. Talk to them and tell them about what you're wanting to do. Really provide them some feedback, some tips, not really tips, but some ideas to help them write you a strong letter of recommendation. And you want your packet to be complete as possible up until only needing the senior warrant officer letter before you reach out to them, before you reach out to the senior 131 Alpha, because what they want to do is they'll want to review your entire packet to include the letters. And at that point, they may want to reach out and talk to your commanders that wrote the letters to get a better idea, especially if they don't have a working relationship with you. If you've reached out to a senior warrant officer and you're doing an interview, obviously you want to put your best foot forward, so in doing so, you want to have your packet as complete as possible and allow that warrant officer to go and really just call and contact your references, contact your commanders to get a better idea if you are right for the 131 Alpha community.
Thank you, sir. That's very insightful. What is family life like as a 131 Alpha Field Artillery Technician? And how can we best take care of our families as we embark on our quest to become a 131 Alpha Field Artillery Technician?
I would tell you that in the past, 131 Alphas were the second most deployed warrant officer MOS, just behind aviators. But obviously, in the current environment right now, we're not deploying nearly as much as we were when we were focused on OIF and OEF. Life as a warrant officer, life as a 131 Alpha is really good right now. You're obviously, if you're at the battalion or the brigade, you'll be conducting, you'll be expected to participate in all the training events that are normally scheduled for anyone in those organizations. But the thing about being a warrant officer is you're a subject matter expert, you're a leader, and your leadership and the leadership within an organization treats you as such. You're really able to kind of dictate your own schedule. You know what you're responsible to do, and if you do that, you have a lot of latitude with how your day goes. And by that, I don't mean, that we check out at 1300 or 1400. What I mean is you can sit there and make that personal decision on whether or not it is more beneficial for you to be out in formation at 1700 or for you to finish up this last bit of this OPOR you're working on for next week's training exercise. Those are the types of things that you'll be able to decide within yourself and not really be told that you have to do. And really, I would say that the Army as a whole has realized that the focus really needs to be on the families, because quality of life it really is a key determinant in overall job performance and job satisfaction. So as a 131 Alpha, obviously our assignments officer looks at that when looking at assignments or future moves and things of that nature. But I would tell you, my family life has benefited immensely since I've made the transition, simply because the enhanced promotion potential and the compensation that is in line with the changing responsibilities from a warrant officer compared to an NCO.
Sir, this is a two-part question. When creating your resume, what is the best way to highlight some of the skills you possess, and what are the most critical skills to highlight? Furthermore, what are some of the most critical trainings to highlight?
When you look at your resume as you're building your warrant officer application, the things you want to highlight are really identify areas of individual performance. So it's really great. It's really good to capture, you were this part, you went and deployed with this unit and you did this and this. But throughout your resume, you want to highlight areas of individual recognition. And really it's because the board members aren't going to have a whole lot of time to comb through every document in your application. And you want to make sure that you're pointing out that, hey, while I was assigned to be in this position, I was identified by the commander for excellence during this situation, or I received this award, or I was honor grad, distinguished honor grad. You want to be sure to highlight individual performance because that really is going to be, as a warrant officer, we are kind of alone and unafraid in our expectations and our responsibilities. So you have to be able to show that you're able to be a self-starter, you're able to be self-driven. And as for critical training, I really say, like, obviously your PME is very important. Battle staff is really important for a 131 Alpha, because that's where you're going to be spending the rest of your career as a 131 Alpha, is on a staff at some echelon. But additionally, any type of maneuver or fires related courses are only going to benefit you as a 131 Alpha.
Thank you, sir. What are some of the most important things to talk about in the resume summary page, and how do board members view these comments?
So on the resume summary, I tell applicants that the best thing to do is keep it about half a page, because as I just mentioned, board members aren't going to have time to read everything you put in your application. They're really looking for the highlights. So you want to use your resume summary page to capture, number one, bring to it the board members' attention where you've excelled at, and also how the things that you've done as an NCO will benefit the cohort and benefit yourself once you make that transition to become a 131 Alpha. It really is all about selling yourself in the summary without going overboard. It's a fine line between being confident and arrogant, but I think that being confident in your performance and your capabilities, you have to really portray that through your resume summary page.
Thank you, sir. Where are the 3 best duty stations that one can expect to serve in while assigned as a 131 Alpha Field Artillery Technician?
That's really a subjective question, because what I feel are the best duty assignments may not be someone else's. But I will tell you, as a 131 Alpha, you're going to have an opportunity to serve at any of the major Army installations, as well as joint assignments. We have positions in the air bases, at the Army Service Combatant Command levels, at the Joint Command level. So you're going to have overseas opportunities in Italy, Germany, Korea, Hawaii. You're going to have CONUS opportunities from JBLM all the way to Hurlbut Field in Florida. There's plenty of opportunities to serve in locations that are desirable for whatever you and your family feel is best for y'all.
What are some of the most important certifications and training experiences warrant officers should pursue in the course of their career in this warrant officer military occupation specialty, and why?
The opportunities you're going to have for training are going to be vast. As a 131 Alpha, you're going to be able to attend a myriad of schools, many that you may be unfamiliar with. But a good thing is look at any type of school that is fires or targeting related. And obviously when you talk about fires, I'm talking not only surface to surface, but air to surface, as well as non-lethal effects we can have. So Joint Firepower course is a great course for a W01 or a CW2. And then after that, you want to look at maybe Joint Intermediate Target Development. JOT2C is another good one. Joint Targeting School in Dam Neck, Virginia is another one. These are all and these courses really will be available to you depending on where you're at in your career and your unit training, calendar, of course. But always keep in mind, we publish a newsletter every quarter, and at the back of the newsletter for 131 Alphas, we list all the functional courses that are available, as well as points of contact. So you should always have that available to you. So when you do have an opportunity to attend some training, you'll be able to know exactly what training you should probably take based off of your grade. Not only that, within the DAPAM 600-3, in the professional development model, we line out where some of the courses that a W01 should take, if available, W2, W3, W4, and W5, the courses, as well as expected duty assignments. So that's a great resource for kind of really helping navigate your career path as a 131 Alpha.
Once again, great information to have, sir. Thank you. On the subject of promotions, starting from W1, How long would it take in this Warrant Officer Military Occupation Specialty to progress through each rank to reach CW5?
So, newly promoted W01 out of Warrant Officer Candidate School will have 24 months as W01, and then automatic promotion pending disciplinary actions, automatic promotion to CW2. And once you're CW2, from that point on, promotions are at regular gates. So you'll get looked at 4 years in your current grade. You'll get looked at for the next grade after 4 years, and then you'll pin on within your 5th year. So you can think that from W01 to W4 is 12 years. And then at that point, you can obviously think on add 4 and pin on in 5 for W5. So it's really about 17 years as a warrant officer to make W5 for 131 alphas.
Thank you for that information, sir. As one retires from this Warrant Officer Military Occupation Specialty, are there lifelong organizations that one may take part in as a former warrant officer to champion issues concerning warrant officers exclusively?
Yeah, absolutely. As a warrant officer, especially as a 131 Alpha, we're a part of the Field Artillery branch. So being a member of the Field Artillery Association is a great contribution, a great way to stay in touch. Especially lifelong memberships are very affordable, and that way you can always be up to date on where the Field Artillery as a whole is going, and be able to reach out within the leadership of that community. Additionally, the Warrant Officer Association, becoming a lifelong member of the Warrant Officer Association is a great way. I would also challenge 131 Alphas out there and NCOs that become 131 Alphas to apply for membership within own unit associations, regimental associations, and things of that nature, because it just keeps you tied into the organization and the Army enterprise as a whole. And because as a warrant officer, you bring a very unique perspective to that discussion.
Thank you, sir. Why should someone want to compete to be a part of a 131 Alpha Field Artillery technician, and how does it benefit the nation?
That's a pretty deep question. I would say that if you're really looking to become a subject matter expert in a role that directly contributes to the Army's focus on large-scale combat operations, then this is probably the MOS for you, especially if you are combat-focused and have experience or a desire to work with ground maneuver operations, employing assets within the joint realm as well as organic to your organization. And obviously, that benefit is going to be vast, because you're going to be able to contribute to an organization at the brigade or at the division level and really make recommendations to the commander on how to employ those organic assets to achieve his objectives. And therefore, that his objectives are going to support the higher headquarters objectives and obviously support the strategic mission. So yeah, it's a great question, but I definitely think that as a 131 Alpha, it's easy to see how it benefits the nation for us.
Thank you, sir. That was very informative. For our final question here, as a mentor in the cohort, what additional advice would you offer a potential applicant?
I would tell a potential candidate that as long as you continue to work and do the best you can in whatever assignment you are given, whether it's something directly within your core MOS or it's not, as long as you continue to put in the effort and you continue to do your best in those positions, it will help benefit you in the long run. Continue to seek out opportunities that are challenging. It's very easy to kind of just do enough in the Army and make a career of just doing enough. But warrant officers, that's not what we do, and that's not who we are. And we're looking for NCOs that want to do, or that have shown that they're willing to do more than just enough. So we're really looking for those guys who've challenged themselves either through functional courses, through operational assignments, or through specialized training that put them in positions above their peers as discriminators. I mean, it really is about ensuring that you have set yourself up and you've identified to the Army and to the Warrant Officer Selection Board that you are a person who seeks out challenges, who goes above and beyond what is expected of someone of that grade and can perform at that level, who's always looking for that next challenge or that next opportunity to perform and demonstrate their ability to lead. That's really the biggest advice I would tell them. Keep your head up, keep working hard, and the paperwork, the application, your evaluations, all that stuff will fall in line. Don't get too wrapped up around, what evaluation you got or anything like that. Just focus on doing your best and whatever is asked of you. If you do your best in that, everything else will fall into place. And then when you build out your 131 Alpha application, it'll be a competitive application, and your chances of selection increase exponentially.
Chief Shirron, thank you so much for joining us today. We truly value your time and insight you've offered us today.
Yeah, I want to thank USAREC for inviting me to participate in this podcast, and I hope that it was informative to those NCOs who are considering applying to become a warrant officer, and specifically to apply being a 131 Alpha Field Artillery Technician. Additionally, as you work through your application process, or if you have additional questions about the process or about being a warrant officer, don't hesitate to reach out to your local USAREC recruiting team or reach out to me on the GoWarrantNow.com page under the 131 Alphas. All my contact information is there. Again, thank you, and I look forward to helping you transition in your career path to becoming a warrant officer.
And for those of you listening out there, I want to encourage you to apply to become a 131 Alpha Field Artillery Technician. And as always, go warrant now.